Welcome to the Venly Expert Talks, where we aim to inspire Web3 builders with great stories from great minds. I'm your host, Alexandra Ahrens, and I'd like to remind you that you can always reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, or LinkedIn with ideas for the podcast and questions for our guests. Welcome to episode 17 of the Venly Expert Talks. Today, I'm joined by John Nahas, Vice President of Business Development at Ava Labs, and we'll be talking about NFTs as an avenue for blockchain adoption. So welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Just to start off, I'd like to know about your background in life and in crypto.
Sure. I'll give you kind of the journey that led me down this rabbit hole that we're all in. And unless, I always like to tell people, unless you're like 22, 3, 4 years old, most people in this industry have come from another industry, right? Whether it be engineering, finance, marketing, computer science. What's beautiful about this is that it's really interdisciplinary and it's brought together a lot of professions, a lot of expertise across a number of things into this new and growing space, which is super exciting because I feel like we all get to learn from each other and grow as an industry. My journey started off in a completely different path. I studied political science and communication in college as an undergrad, was really a big policy wonk. Came out of school, did corporate finance advisory for about a year and a half, helping startup middle market clients, and then decided to go back to school and got a master's in diplomacy, actually in public diplomacy. So I was very involved in the international policy circles for a while. I did stints, junior fellowship at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. I was stationed in Beirut. That's where my fellowship was for a while in 2009. After that, focused on some work with the World Economic Forum based on sovereign wealth funds, focusing on that vertical, kind of their geopolitical impact, their investment thesis, and kind of what those sovereign wealth funds are doing with their investments. After that, did some stints with the House and Senate Foreign Relations Committees in the U.S. and State Department on their quadrennial review in 2009, 2010. And then finished up grad school and joined a startup called, at the time, Policy Mike. It later rebranded to Mike at mic.com, where I was managing editor, director of partnerships and outreach, and oversaw a team of about 5 editors, 180 writers through the alpha launch, the beta launch, up until the public launch, at which point it peaked, I think, about 33 million unique viewers and visitors a month, which was really exciting.
Wow. Yeah.
Left that and then actually got into the world of international trade finance, primarily OTC commodities. So probably the oldest business in the world. Pretty opaque, right? Lots of deals, lots of contracts, lots of negotiations, spent a lot of time in Geneva, Dubai, and Moscow. During that time, I got bit by the blockchain bug, maybe late 2016, early 2017, and noticed myself starting to spend every minute I had reading about blockchain and crypto and Bitcoin and leading up to kind of the ICO boom of early 2018. Like anybody in this space, I was at an event talking about crypto and Bitcoin, and a friend of mine mentioned to me that he was joining a new firm and that I should look into it. So I went from the most opaque thing in international trade to a blockchain-based fintech platform called Token Vault. We had built, so I was vice president of corporate and business development there. We built a mobile application for digital asset spending, investing, and trading. Most notably, we built the blockchain money market token for Franklin Templeton and got acquired by Franklin at the end of 2019. Left in early 2020, started looking around. COVID happened, of course. Took a couple months, spent some time with my family. I have 2 little kids, which didn't see much of me while building a startup. So Took some time and then jumped back in summer of 2020, started looking for new options, had a bunch of great ones, and got introduced to the team at Ava Labs. Loved what they were building, fell down the rabbit hole of reading everything I could about Avalanche. Was sold, and it was just a matter of how soon I could start. So I started early September 2020, about 2 weeks before mainnet launch of Avalanche. So I've been on the business development team here ever since. I co-lead it. Started off as 3 people. Now we're about 16, looking to get to about 20.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Very, very cool. That's quite a path you've taken. Great. So for anyone that is maybe not familiar or not aware, can you take us through an outline of the structure and the function of Ava Labs and Avalanche and how everything's connected in?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of the standard pitch, right?
Yeah.
So I give it a comprehensive overview. So Ava Labs is the firm behind Avalanche. Created it, spun it out. Avalanche now is an open source public blockchain, 1,200 plus validators, decentralized, completely running on its own. Ava Labs, as the firm, is a licensed service provider to Avalanche. So our focus is twofold. One is, first and foremost, the growth of the Avalanche ecosystem. So that's across multiple verticals. First being wallets. So exchanges, custodians, mobile wallets, you name it. Second being assets. So stable coins, NFTs, security tokens, and any other assets that could be deployed on the platform. And third is applications. So of course, any kind of dApps, DeFi, anything along those lines. Conversely, Ava Labs works with enterprises and institutions to build products on Avalanche. So most notably, recently, we've partnered with Deloitte to build a U.S. government program called Close As You Go, which is administered by FEMA. And we're working with Deloitte to build a lot of other cool products on Avalanche. Second, we've partnered with MasterCard through their StartPath program to work on ways to kind of build out payment solutions on Avalanche. And we're working with a lot of other customers and clients and partners that want to build blockchain solutions on Avalanche. And then the product team builds products to support the Avalanche ecosystem, such as the Avalanche Bridge and many more forthcoming products to support the ecosystem. So switching over to Avalanche. Avalanche, of course, for those that don't know, is a new layer 1 blockchain. Launched in about mid-September 2020, spun out of Cornell University, where our founder, Emin Günsfrieder, is a notable computer science and distributed systems professor. He created Karma, the first peer-to-peer eCash system in 2002, so 6 years before Bitcoin, and has been a lecturer, advisor, consultant to crypto projects, blockchain, central banks, governments, enterprise, and everything in between. The breakthrough that happened at Cornell with his PhD students, so Ted Yin, our chief protocol architect, who was a co-author of Hot Stuff, that's what Facebook was using for their consensus for Libra, and Kevin Seknicki, who was at JPL as our COO, was the Avalanche consensus. So what we're most proud of course, is the Avalanche consensus, which in the history of consensus is only the third ever novel consensus protocol. You have classical consensus since the 70s. That's what incumbents use for distributed systems such as Visa and MasterCard, et cetera, but also some blockchains use as well. Classical consensus is great. It's fast, it's cheap, it's scalable. Nakamoto consensus came around with the Bitcoin white paper, of course, decentralized, trustless, but as we've seen, can't scale, expensive, not fast, and not eco-friendly. Avalanche, as a new third consensus, aims to solve these issues by being truly decentralized with over 1,200 validators, a little over a year and a quarter since mainnet launch. We're fast. We boast 4,500 transactions per second on a single chain. We have a multi-chain architecture. We can get into that. But what we're also proud of is that we have sub-second finality. So from the time a transaction hits the chain, it's finalized in 0.2 of a second. I believe we're the fastest in the space there. And then finally, we are eco-friendly. So we've commissioned a report by the Cryptocarbons Ratings Institute. That's the guys from MIT in the US and Technical Institute of Munich, the guys who wrote the seminal Bitcoin carbon footprint paper. They did a climate-controlled study of the top 6 proof-of-stake chains. And Avalanche came out with flying colors. We're very proud of how sustainable we are. For some context, Bitcoin uses over 6 million US households worth of carbon. Ethereum uses about 12 to 1,400, 1.2 to 1.4 million US households. In the proof-of-stake universe, of course, we're much lower. But among our competitors in the proof-of-stake world, we clock in at a combined total of 46 US households of carbon. That is for the entirety of the Avalanche blockchain, 1,200 plus validators, millions of transactions a day, billions of dollars transacted. The metric that matters the most is because we do have significant traffic and transactions, is Avalanche secures more dollars per unit of energy than any other blockchain out there. So we're really proud of that. So this platform kind of runs our chain, which is a multi-chain architecture. First is our Exchange. That's where the Avox token lies, that you're able to create, mint, and burn assets there. But there's limited smart contract functionality. That's a DAG. It's optimized for speed and throughput. So think payments and supply chain and logistics. Second is our P chain. That's our platform chain. That's where validation and delegation occurs. So a lot of the administration of the chain happens on a separate single chain. Secondly, the benefit of being a node or validator on Avalanche allows for something that we're very excited about and just announced in our multiverse campaign is the creation of subnets. So subnets are the ability to create permissioned private chains or permissionless and public chains on the primary chain through being a validator. So think of this in the future for app-specific chains such as DeFi Kingdoms that's coming, or Krabata, another game that we have coming, enterprises, financial institutions, people that want to have a closed chain, but at the same time running on a public utility in a public chain. That's what our subnets are going to be. And we believe that's the next stage of growth for us and to prove how we can scale horizontally. Finally, we have our C chain. That's our contracts chain. That is an instance of the Ethereum virtual machine. We selected that as our default, since we believe the EVM is the default and standard for smart contracts in the blockchain world. So anything that's on the C chain is built with Solidity, just like Ethereum. And we've seen notable blue chip Ethereum projects such as Aave, Curve, Sushi, and many more port over. And native Ethereum teams, of course, developing new products on Avalanche that they couldn't do on other chains because we're faster and cheaper. So we've seen a significant growth on the DeFi side. We're second in TVL, of course, to Ethereum now, boosted by our Rush program, which was announced in August. And we're seeing a ton of native and original projects launching, as well as other teams moving over and building on Avalanche, which is super exciting. So that's Avalanche in a nutshell, and kind of all vertical. So we're doing a little bit of everything. We believe that the future is multi-chain. No single chain will be able to ever handle all of the possible use cases that exist out there. Some have niches, some are DeFi crypto focused, others are enterprise focused. We believe by having a foot in both worlds, we're able to bridge the divide and really bring TradFi and incumbents into the new kind of innovation that's happening in Web3. So, yep.
Great. Very in-depth kind of nutshell. I like it. It's good. Great. So in kind of reference to that, it has been said that Ava's approach to node communication will help it to scale better than Ethereum's 2.0. Do you agree with that? If so, why or why not?
I don't like to compare Avalanche to others. Like some might say this is better, that is better. I believe that our architecture allows us to scale, whereas others don't have the same ability to scale. Doesn't mean they won't. And we hope they do, because we believe if everybody succeeds, we all succeed more. This is not a zero-sum game, right? I often like to say that, there's tribalism or maximalism in crypto because we're still so early, where people in different camps are trying to say, I'm better, no, I'm better, where we're kind of fighting over crumbs, to be honest, when there's a much larger pie that all of us can be fully, content with and have more opportunities than any of us can handle. So I hope ETH2 scales. I hope it arrives. I hope it succeeds. I think we all do. They set the bar for all of us, and we hope that they do it as well. I do think we have a different way to scale, and I think it could be better. It should be better, and it will be better. But it doesn't mean that we're not complementary to each other and can work together and support each other in each other's ecosystems.
Very diplomatically said. Good. Then touching back again on the energy consumption, because that is honestly insane differences that you've mentioned there. Do you think that the lower energy consumption will be enough for naysayers to get on board with blockchain?
Yes and no. Yes, because there's people that just don't know. And it's incumbent on us and everyone in this industry to prove that blockchains can be sustainable. Credit to our proof of stake kind of friends on other chains that have illustrated this as well. It's a big push. I know for other chains, it's just Solana and Algorand, and good for them, and we applaud them. Of course, we believe we're more green, as the experts illustrated. But at the end of the day, we're in a completely different universe in terms of consumption. So relatively speaking, we're all pretty much close. We are in the same universe with each other rather than the rest. And so, yes, I believe we can change opinions. It's going to take all of us to work in unison and to be proactive in educating the public and educating experts about the differences in consumption and the differences in sustainability of different chains or different models. But at the same time, there will always be naysayers, right? There will always be people who, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you show, will continue to be biased because they either have their own incumbent bias, they have their own predisposed beliefs, they just don't want to learn, they don't want to care, or it affects their personal bottom line, right? And blockchains as a whole are disruptive to their business model, and it's easier to point a finger and say no than to adapt, which we see all the time. So yeah, I think we can. It's incumbent on us to do that work, to educate. But for the people that you can't convert or you can't kind of convince, we'll keep our head up high and keep doing what we're doing.
Sure. Good. I want to mention really quickly the Avalanche Summit that's coming up. I think you said you are attending, so that's very cool. This podcast will launch like right in the middle of it. So just in a couple sentences, what can attendees expect?
Well, this is our inaugural summit. It's the first time since Avalanche has launched that we've been able to, we launched in the height of the pandemic, of course, right? So for a lot of people, especially even on the team, it's the first opportunity for a lot of us to all be together, which hasn't happened. We've been together kind of separately here and there. So I think first and foremost for attendees, they get to meet the Ava Labs team, meet people that they've previously seen on interviews or heard in podcasts such as this, or follow on Twitter, to see them, to talk to us, to collaborate with us, to work with us. I think it's an opportunity to meet some of the best teams that exist in the ecosystem, that are building on the ecosystem, and to hear about the projects that are here, that are thriving, and for new projects that will be coming, and new exciting initiatives that we have going on, and new partnerships, and for the community as a whole to kind of get together and gather and celebrate what we've accomplished thus far, and kind of look to the future for what's to come.
Very positive.
So for anybody listening, if you're not in Barcelona, we miss you. Hop on a flight and come join us. We're here until the end of the week.
Great. Perfect. So I'd love to hear about some of your favorite projects being built on Avalanche right now.
How long do we have?
Okay, narrow it down.
I mean, across the board, I think it's amazing. What's happening in the DeFi ecosystem is tremendous. We get approached by new teams all the time, especially old teams too, that have built stuff that said, we've always had this project that we've envisioned building, but we weren't able to on other chains because of speed or time or cost or whatever. But we can do it on Avalanche. So that's super exciting to us. There's cornerstone kind of native projects that are near and dear to my heart, such as Venly, liquid staking and money market, Trader Joe, are kind of our flagship decks. Those teams are super professional. They build great stuff and they continue to kind of build and grow. So that's amazing. I know there's great new projects such as Platypus and Yeti and Arrow and Struct and a lot of other stuff in the DeFi space. On the NFT side, super excited for the work that the Particle team did. So they bought a Banksy, they sliced it into 10,000 pieces and sold off NFTs. So it's kind of a membership in a digital first museum that's going to retain and preserve physical art and fine art. So we did, the first one was a Banksy, and looking forward to what their next painting is going to be and what they're going to continue to do and innovate on the fine art side. Kalal's our native NFT marketplace. We're looking forward to many more. The Trader Joe team is going to be launching an NFT marketplace called Joe Pegs, which, true to form, these guys are great with names. So excited to see that product because everything they build and ship is exciting. We got a ton of stuff coming on the enterprise side too that I think will show people how blockchains can really solve real world use cases, not just be speculative or tradable items, but actually make people's lives better, easier, save money, be faster, be cheaper. So across the board, there's too much to list, but I think the growth in DeFi, NFTs, enterprise, and especially in gaming. So, I mean, we have Ascenders and Shrapnel and forthcoming. Krabata is a huge game on us now that's doing amazing things. There's Chicken Farm. There's just a ton of stuff, right? Like if I know I'm going to offend people for not mentioning them, and I'm going to get thank yous from people who I do. But to be frank, I'm just extremely proud and humbled by the growth of this ecosystem and this community and what they continually build. So there's a lot there now and a ton more to come. So
yeah, you can blame it on me. There wasn't enough time to get through everybody. So great. Wonderful. That's all. Yeah. Very interesting. Good. So when we're talking about using NFTs to bring new people into the space, which obviously you mentioned some great ways that might be happening, do you think gas fees and transaction weights and kind of those more negative aspects will affect how everything is adopted and viewed?
They are. They already are, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a great community on Ethereum. There's a lot of people that have significant wealth that are able to pay those fees, but for other people, they're not. And you're seeing this with kind of public backlash against some enterprises that are doing, or Fortune 500s or whoever, or lifestyle brands or celebrities that are doing NFTs because they're being told that it's unsustainable. It's against their ethos. We hear it from artists, right? So who say, we want to do NFTs, we want to do native digital art, but it's against our personal beliefs to be, contributing to global warming and increased emissions. So they're looking for that. Enterprises are looking at that, whether you're Coca-Cola or Ford Motor Company or hotel brand or whatever you might do. You signed up for ESG goals and you have certain initiatives that you're doing in order to do that and to meet those initiatives. So it wouldn't make sense to be deploying assets that are unsustainable. So we are seeing that, we are hearing that all the time. So whether it's cost, whether it's speed or sustainability, these are the things that I think are top of mind for the next generation that's really going to usher in that retail use case, right? Right now, a lot of the traction on NFTs is, of course, crypto native, profile pictures, generative art, all that cool stuff. But if we really want to onboard the next billion users into the Web3 economy, it's going to have to be retail, right? It's going to have to be the mass market. And the mass market needs two things. A conduit, so brands that they trust and believe in that issue these assets. And secondly, an easy way to do so, right? Like an easy on-ramp. It's hard for a typical person to buy crypto, send it to a web wallet or a mobile wallet, go mint an NFT, et cetera, right? So abstracting away the Web3 complexities, making it easier to kind of get into this economy makes it easier, right? I often say that we're pretty elitist in this group. And I know everyone in this ecosystem loves financial inclusion and bringing as many people into this Web3 economy, but we're also so protective of our seed phrases and our Web3 way of doing things and transactions and explorers and whatever it may be that we've grown accustomed to. That is a high learning curve to get anybody to do anything new, right? People ask me sometimes, oh, how would you explain blockchain to your grandma? I won't, because she'll never understand. What I'll ask her is, does she know how Venmo or PayPal or Zelle or any of these other things work? And she'll say no. All she knows is she pushes a button and something happens. Where it happens, how it happens, what it costs is what matters, right? Like, so if we're not making things as easy at a bare minimum, if not easier, and as fast, if not faster, and as cheap, if not cheaper, than the current incumbent systems, we have a very steep hill to climb, right? So, so cost is one thing, of course. Speed is another. Sustainability is another. But I think the biggest barrier to entry is just accessibility and ease of use. So all these things do come together. Some people care about some more than the others. Other people care about other things. But cumulatively, that's upon us as an industry. And I know something you guys at Venly are working hard at and doing a great job is to make it accessible for people, right? To make it easier to enter into this economy. And then once people get in, I think they're hooked, right? I think all of us are in this space because once we got in, we got hooked. So the easier we make it for people to get in, the faster, the cheaper, et cetera, the more people we get, and the more companies we get, the more artists we get, the more creatives we get, and the circle continues to grow.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really great way to break that down into just a couple parts. On that vein, is there kind of a timeline you envision for getting there, or a path that you can see?
I think you're already starting to see it, right? So I think you're seeing corporates jump in, major lifestyle or fashion brands jump in. I think you're seeing the infrastructure being built currently. So I think by the end of this year, we'll be in a much different place than we were in the beginning of this year, which is further along than we were a while back. What's truly shocking and impressive for me is the speed in which this ecosystem grows and builds and ships and innovates. This doesn't happen anywhere else, period and full stop. Like if an enterprise, a major incumbent was to buy a startup, they wouldn't know where to start with it. They wouldn't know how to move this fast. They're bureaucratic, they're slow. And we're practically on the road to leaving them all behind. So they have to innovate or we're going to kind of eat them all up. Right. So, next few months, I think you'll start to see more mass market appeal. I think by the end of the year, it'll be second nature to people to own and buy NFTs. And the use cases, I think, are only continuing to grow more so than just the generative art, the profile pictures, and all this other stuff.
Definitely. Good. So kind of specifically what people can do to get involved. How can creators and developers bring mainstream users into the space? Obviously, brands, great, as you said, but more small scale, I guess. How can the individual help out?
I think, on the individual level, what we've been able to do, I think first step is getting involved in this ecosystem, right? It's just dipping your toes in, learning, and then you get your friends involved, they get their friends involved, and more people get involved and they start collecting things. And then they start becoming creators themselves, right? On a basic level, they start creating their own art, they start creating their own assets, and they start exchanging with each other, right? Like if you take it back to the old days when I was a kid, right? Kids would take stuff to school and they would trade stuff at school, right? You would buy baseball cards or pogs or whatever it was at the time, and you would trade it around lunchtime, or you would go to the park, or you would do meetups, or you would go to the mall, to the card store to trade that stuff. Now you could do it 24/7 on a global marketplace with the whole world as your customer base, with the whole world as kind of your trading counterparty. So it's really expanding. For creators, I think what matters is to see what's missing, or something that's of interest to them. Because ultimately, I think the beauty of creators is that they create what they love, and sometimes that's great, and other times, they need to build a community. So I think getting involved, building a community, which is what's beautiful about this ecosystem in general, is the communities that emerge around projects, creating a fan base and creating things that people want. And sometimes there will be trial and error, and sometimes things will work and sometimes things don't. And I would just encourage everybody to be persistent, because a lot of the projects that are now huge didn't start off huge, right? You're not going to create an NFT drop and imagine if it sell out in 5 minutes. Some of those do, and that's great. Others don't, and they grow to be very big and in demand. So, patience, curiosity, perseverance, those things are a cliche, but they're true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. We already saw great use cases for blockchain like finance and gaming. What industry or use case do you think has great growth potential in the next couple months, or what are you most excited about in the next months or years?
I think we see where DeFi has taken things, and that's forced incumbent financial institutions to either adapt this, try and change. Some will, some won't. That's cool. I think we've seen only the tip of the iceberg with NFTs, though. I think it's still super early. I think where NFTs end up going is not where they are now. And what I mean by that is not that the future use cases will overtake what it is now, but NFTs exist in a digital art form right now, right? Whereas they can have so many more applications, right? College degrees, certifications, driver's licenses, passports, all these things that people will own. So as a form of digital identity, I think could be the future of NFTs. I think NFTs as kind of a certificate of authenticity. At its core, what an NFT is a certificate of authenticity, right? So it says that you own this token, which says that you own that asset that lives on IPFS or wherever else. I think tying NFTs to physical goods is really going to take it to the future, right? Those pesky QR codes, you can scan it, see who owns it, see what wallet it belongs to. So imagine that you're a enterprise, right? Right now, what's big is identity, GDPR in the EU, protecting people's identity. Right now, when you buy something, they have your name, they have your address, they have your email, they have your credit card information, and probably they know what you had for breakfast because you're using an iPhone, right? And it'll tell them where you were or what you spent money on. But think of, let's make up a company right now. Let's just say I'm using this as an example. I'm not saying they're doing this, but they should do this if they're not. Adidas with Yeezys, right? People love like sneakers. I buy a $300 pair of sneakers. It's one of 1,000, right? I get a little piece of paper that says certificate of authenticity, and the first thing I do is throw it in the trash. But instead of that piece of paper, what if I had an app or a wallet? So it's pseudo-anonymous. It's not my name. It's not my address. It's a wallet that receives a corresponding NFT with that item that I buy, right? So I, John Nahas, get Yeezys in black, white laces, number 768 out of 1,000. I get an NFT that says that. Adidas knows me because they sent me that NFT. They can send me a token. They can send me whatever, airdrop me anything they want because that's their way of reaching me. But then once I sell it to you, Alex, the chain as it stands currently is broken. But if I sell you those Yeezys in a secondary market for $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever crazy amount of money people are paying for sneakers, I give you that NFT. Well, now Adidas can airdrop you. They don't know you. They don't know your name is Alex. They don't know where you live. They have no personal identifying information about you except for a pseudonymous wallet. Well, now they can airdrop you a rewards token or airdrop you something or access or whatever it may be. And then that NFT could be access to an event. It could be access to a new drop or a new sale or whatever it may be. So I think when I say tracking wallets, it has a negative connotation. And I don't mean it in a negative way because I think where this could go is a much better system than the current system exists with people's identities and personal information. So that's where in the NFT space, I think we're going to go. I think the art's still going to continue to grow. I think you're going to start to see a new cohort of digital first artists. Existing artists become digital first or digital native, which is super cool. Of course, people displaying NFTs in their homes, on screens that change, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all the given. But I think that's a huge thing for NFTs. And I think enterprises really adopting blockchain to make things faster, easier, cheaper, right? Something that I often ask companies that talk to us is, why do you need a blockchain? Some people just want to use it just to use a blockchain, to say they do, because their shareholders expect them to innovate. That's not going to make a difference. But from what we see and what we're hearing, what we're working on, there's a lot of real innovation happening that's exciting. And I think it's going to take a little bit longer than we anticipate in this industry because incumbents and enterprises just move slower. But gradually, I think things will start to roll out and make our lives cheaper, faster, easier, better, more transparent, particularly in this world with, so much lack of transparency, I guess you could say, and opacity, that we can really start to make changes. And then I think once those happen slowly, it all of a sudden starts to take over. Mm-hmm. So not going into any details there, but I think we have a very bright future ahead.
Yeah, no, that was a really good example. So actually, funnily enough, we had Diego Borgo on who worked with Adidas. And one of the things that he said was the best way for brands to get into the space was to enter authentically. What does that mean to you, and how would you recommend brands do that?
That's interesting. So I think the cornerstone of being authentic is to do something because it brings value. It engages your customers and your audience. It brings value. It makes the existing thing better, meaning somehow cheaper, faster, easier to get, more engaging. What authenticity is not is brands just saying, "Ooh, let's do an NFT drop because we can make a lot of money." Right? That's the inauthenticity that we've seen from some players, right? Who represent celebrities or represent brands that see this as a quick payout, right? Do a quick 10,000 NFT drop, sell out, make X amount of money, and then cool, good luck to you, right? For brands, I think that's not authentic. So then there needs to be a story behind it. There needs to be a reason behind it. It needs to be communicated, and there needs to be a community formed around that. And whether a community forms or not, I think is the testament to whether it is authentic or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good way to sum it up. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
No cash. That's it. That's the advice. Don't do a cash grab.
No cash grabs. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Good. So kind of switching into maybe a more somber tone really for a minute here. How do you feel that current world events, including what's happening in Ukraine, as well as many other things, will affect NFTs in the next period of time?
I think what currently is going on will continue. I don't think it's going to negatively impact as much. It's unfortunate what's happening.
Of course.
It's terrible. And what I hope out of this is that some positive use case can be used, right? To document things, right? To memorialize events so that people don't forget, so that history is not written by the winners as often it is, but is actually a truthful account. And blockchains are a great way to have an immutable record of what happened. I know there's great projects working right now at a couple universities in the U.S. where they're tracking kind of issues like this and other kind of global issues by tracking photographs and proof and things of that nature on chain, so that nobody can ever change it. Right? Once it's there, it's immutable. It's there forever. No one can dispute that it happened. My hope is that it could be used as a way to further build community rather than divide. Unfortunately, as we see, technology sometimes does both things really well. It speeds up division, and it also speeds up community and growth. I hope that the community side wins out, which I believe it does and always will. But there's hurdles along the way. I think there's a lot of positives that can come out of this, that can be utilized for the benefit of those that are going through a tough time right now. What that looks like, I don't really know yet. Hopefully it happens. But I know that everybody's kind of tuned into what's going on and is concerned. And hopefully our community and every community out there can find a way to use this technology for the betterment of everybody.
Definitely. Good. Wonderful. Yeah. So at the end here, kind of what I've got to say is finished. So is there anything you feel like we've missed, or anything that you feel like our listeners should know?
I guess I'll close on this, right? If you're an expert or someone who's been in this space for a long time, thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for what you've done. Please continue to build and continue to interact and reach out to us if there's anything that's exciting that you'd love to develop or work on Avalanche, we're keen to support. We're always open to working with the best builders and teams and being a resource to support all of you in whatever you do. For those that are listening that haven't used Avalanche, I encourage you to do so. Our DeFi ecosystem is huge. Our NFT ecosystem is growing, and we have a lot of cool stuff coming. So welcome. I think you'll find a receptive, welcoming, and exciting community. And for those that are still dipping their toes into this space in general, buy some NFTs, trade some, buy tokens, have some fun, learn. This is the way things are going to eventually be in the next couple of years. So if you're new to this space, don't be scared. You're not late. You're still super early. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Great. Cool. And then the very last question we ask everybody, who should we have on Venly Expert Talks next?
Think about this one.
Seems to catch everybody off guard.
I would say I would say Harold Aton from the Particle Foundation, from the guys that did the Banksy on Avalanche. They're rethinking the entire way that NFTs can be tied to fine art, real art, future, and art collection and art ownership. I think that's a great merge of the incumbent existing world and the future. So yeah, get Harold on here.
Great. Then, thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're busy, especially preparing to go to Barcelona. So thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you, Alex. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. You too.